They're known as the Blue Helmets. The United Nations has 90,000 peacekeepers in operations in 12 countries. According to the UN, peacekeepers provide security and help countries move from conflict to peace. But the UN's peacekeeping operations have been criticized of late. Earlier this year, the government of Mali demanded the UN withdraw its troops from the country immediately, claiming it was failing.
I think that governments like the government in Mali look at the UN, they see that the Security Council is divided, and they know that they can push back against the UN if it criticizes them on human rights or other issues. So the real problem is less the peacekeepers on the ground and more the political divisions in New York. The Security Council this year has responded very weakly and very slowly to crises including the violence in Sudan and the coup in Niger. And I think that's a further sign that tensions over Ukraine are incrementally poisoning the institution as a whole.
In responding to this at a Security Council meeting earlier this month, the Chinese Deputy Ambassador to the UN said that the sovereignty of a member state must be respected and said missions must not lose sight of the fundamental goal of peacekeeping.
Host governments and people are the main driving forces of peace and development in their own countries. Gaining the trust of the host governments and the support of the local people is the basis and prerequisite of the smooth conduct of PKOs and a requirement and guarantee for serving the political process.
But one expert believes all is not lost and says peacekeeping still has its place.
For all of the criticisms that have been leveled against UN peacekeeping, peacekeeping works, at least in some contexts and for some things. Peacekeeping missions cannot protect all civilians all of the time. Sometimes they don't even protect some civilians, even some of the time. So some of the criticism is warranted. But again, it's also about managing expectations. So the risks of withdrawing peacekeeping operations early, and by early again, that's before we've achieved some level of sustainable peace, is that you will have not only continued insecurity, which is why peacekeepers are in a place to begin with, but a deterioration of the security conditions.
But in an era of rising conflicts and geopolitical uncertainty, the Blue Helmets will likely face new and unpredictable calls for help. The UN's head of peacekeeping has in the past emphasized the need for innovative solutions to adapt peacekeeping operations to the world's new realities. And this is in line with the UN Secretary General's new agenda for peace adopted in July this year, which calls for the Security Council and the General Assembly to reflect on the limits and the future of peacekeeping in light of the evolving nature of conflicts around the world. Jody Jacobs, CGTN, at the United Nations in New York.